Okay, thank you. Thanks to the organizers for asking me to give this talk. So I'm going to be talking about the LISA Consortium and in particular the reorganization that's ongoing at the moment following adoption of the mission. I thought it would be useful to start by giving a brief overview of the history of the consortium so far. So following the L3 proposal submission in 2017, the consortium was set up in order to support formulation and adoption of the mission and to prepare for delivery of the LISA science objectives. It was also there to foster interactions between people working on the instrument, on the data processing, and on the science exploitation of the data, and to facilitate discussion of new ideas for LISA science. So in the beginning, the consortium was divided into three groups. The LISA instrumentation group was focused on hardware. The LISA data processing group was focused on preparing for the ground segment. And then there was the LISA science group, which had two parts, the science working groups, which were fora for discussions of new science, and the work package teams, which were working more towards the delivery of LISA science objectives. In around 2020, some of the responsibility for the hardware development was taken over by ESA, and there was reorganization of what was left of the LIG and the LDPG groups under the formulation management team. And this formulation management team was focused on putting in place things that needed to be demonstrated in order to get us first through the mission formulation review in 2021, and then ready for adoption, which, as you know, took place earlier this year. So we've reached adoption, and that's an amazing achievement, and we wouldn't have been possible without the efforts of people in the consortium. But now, following adoption, we need to think about what happens next. So some of this is determined by changing boundary conditions as a result of reorganization that occurs at adoption, and many of these are set out in the provisions of the science management plan. So I've highlighted a few of them that are relevant here, and these mostly relates to the plan for production of, well, the issuing of data releases and production of science with LISA data. So the first data release is currently planned to be 1 year after the start of scientific data taking, and this will be accompanied by catalogs of sources, which will be produced by the DDPC in Europe and by the NASA ground segment in the US. The NASA ground segment is under the responsibility of NASA. The DDPC contributions are regulated by the multilateral agreement between the European member states, and so it's no longer the consortium's responsibility to prepare that catalog production. Science will be done on this first year of data through the science topical panels. These will be selected prior to launch via an open call, but the appointment and management of the STPs and the writing of key science papers during this time will be the responsibility of the LISA science team. However, this is only the first data release. After the first data release, there'll be subsequent data releases every few months, or roughly every 6 months. These will be accompanied by updated catalogs, which will be documented, but there won't be any further science interpretation. So the vast majority of the LISA science data will be left to the community to analyze once it's open. So the need for the consortium to continue is recognized in the science management plan. The text that's on the screen here is what is in the SMP describing the role of the consortium. I'll highlight a few things. The LISA consortium represents the interests of the larger scientific community. It will provide an organizational forum that goes beyond what is organized by the LST, and in particular, it'll set up science interest working groups for science that requires integrated data sets that extend beyond the first data release. It'll provide expertise to LST working groups and other parts of the project, and it will also promote and provide pathways for early career scientists to get involved in these activities. So the connection between the consortium and the project is through the LST. The consortium will have a representative on the science team, and that is going to be the link between the consortium and the rest of the project. Okay, so in the organogram of the organization post-adoption, the consortium sits here, providing expertise for the development of for the work of the SOC, the DDPC, NASA ground segment, and providing human resources to contribute to the LST working groups. So given this framework, the current consortium established the Consortium Constituent Council, the CCC, at the end of last year, and the role of this group is to put together a proposal for the structure and organization of the future consortium. The CCC includes all current board members of the current consortium, representatives from all current consortium working groups, and 20 additional members who were chosen following an open call to the current consortium. The CCC elected a chair and a deputy, and that is myself and Deirdre Shoemaker. And you can find some more details both about the membership of the CCC and our activities on the LISA wiki at these links. So our work so far has been organized around 4 subgroups, working on the vision of the consortium, membership and management, and also engagement with the current consortium. The first 3 of these groups are going to evolve soon to focus more on work plan, i.e. what the consortium will be doing, how we manage the transition from the current consortium to the new one, and how we recognize contributions in the future. So one of the first things the CCC did was to carry out a survey of the current consortium about what the future consortium should do. We had 300 responses to this, and everybody who responded was very positive about the role of the future consortium. In particular, we had a sequence of questions asking about things that the Evolve LISA consortium could do, and in all cases, people were either strongly agreeing or agreeing with the proposals. So there are 3 examples here. The Evolve LISA consortium should organize interactions between instrumentalists, data analysts, and scientists. The Evolve consortium should design and execute a strategic plan to ensure the technical success of LISA and scientific return from its data. And the Evolve LISA consortium should organize joint research projects in advance of launch and using open LISA data once it's available. So the CCC has been working for about 6 months now, and we have made progress on a number of areas. It's a complicated process, so we haven't resolved everything yet, but I'll go through some of the things that have so far been decided. We have agreed on a vision statement for the future consortium, which is here. The LISA consortium is and will continue to be a scientific collaboration working together to maximize the scientific return of LISA, in particular using LISA data. And the consortium will support all aspects of the LISA mission throughout the mission lifecycle. In addition, the LISA consortium is committed to promoting the long-term growth and development of the LISA scientific community by providing a supportive and inclusive environment that offers training, mentoring, and opportunities for scientists at all stages of their careers, and in particular, early career scientists. And the consortium will engage with the wider scientific community to foster interest in and support the application of LISA data. In terms of membership, we've agreed that there will be 3 types of person: community members, full members, and permanent members. Community members are people who are not actively contributing to LISA projects, but have interest in LISA science. So these are people who have a similar profile to current associate members of the consortium. Full members will be people who are actively working on projects that deliver the goals of the consortium. And then permanent members are people who have made significant integrated contributions over their careers, either to LISA or the LISA consortium, but who are now retired and so no longer actively working. We expect that full members should be active and they should meet some threshold of contribution, but in the first 2 years of membership, it is enough to be onboarding. So the expectations during that period will be lower, and people who join the consortium will be able to use that first 2-year period to find out what's going on and find an activity to which they can make a useful contribution. We did decide that there'll be no automatic transition from the old consortium to the new consortium. Everybody will have to reapply, and there will also be an opportunity for people who are not members of the current consortium to join. And most likely this will be done in 2 stages. Hopefully we can start that towards the end of this year, if everything else gets done in time. Contributions will be reviewed. When you apply, you'll have to make some statement about what you'll be working on, and this will be renewed probably on a 2-year cycle, but we'll try and make this review process as light to touch as we can. Membership will be through groups, so people who are at the same institution will be grouped, but individual memberships will also be possible, and individual members and small groups will be pooled in some way in order to form the representative body of the consortium, which will be a council that I'll talk about in a minute. Individuals will be responsible for their own commitments, but they'll also have more direct control over their profiles in the directory, so to move themselves between groups should, in principle, be easier. Okay, so what have we decided so far in management? Some people said I should leave this slide completely blank, but I think we have made some progress. The consortium will have a spokesperson that will be the outward face of the consortium to the wider community. This will be in addition to the LST representative. These will be different people because we thought the workload for one person would be too much. The LST representative should be a full and active member of the LISA science team, and therefore that is already a significant role, and so the spokesperson will be somebody different. The primary management structure of the consortium will be a council. The council will have representatives coming from the groups who are providing members of the consortium. But in addition, all of the chairs of the working groups of the consortium will sit on the council. And then there'll be additional representatives that are there to ensure representation of groups that are otherwise not well represented in the council. So this could include additional early career researcher representatives, but how many people there will be in this category and exactly what roles they fulfill is yet to be decided. The council will be convened by an elected chair of the council, and they will have the decision-making authority, but the day-to-day running of the consortium and the group that will make sure decisions that are implemented decisions that are made or implemented will be smaller. This will be a management team of some sort. The name is up to debate at the moment. Maybe it's called an implementation team or executive. But this will comprise the spokesperson and the LST representative and between 4 and 6 additional members who will be appointed from the consortium as a whole or elected from the consortium as a whole to fulfill specific roles. Exactly what those roles are, we have not fully decided, but it might include liaisons with working groups, responsibility for training, onboarding of new members, and so on. All members of the consortium will be able to bring motions to the council for discussion and vote, and a certain fraction of council meetings will be open to everybody in the consortium, and significant decisions will not be made by the council alone, but there will be a vote of all members. Okay, so what do we expect the consortium to do? At the moment, the work is going on to put together at least a high-level work plan, which will be the starting point. But there are a number of things we expect the consortium to be doing. Some of these we already talked about in the context of the science management plan. But we expect the consortium to bring people together, people working on science and data analysis and instrumentation. We expect the consortium to have working groups, as well as providing people, human resources, to populate the working groups of the LISA science team. We expect the consortium to organize meetings, and that includes ensuring the LISA symposium is organized. We will maintain websites and email lists, and that will include support for the wider consortium community who are not actively working on consortium projects. We will foster the LISA community and ensure a safe consortium environment. We'll provide training and support for early career scientists. We'll complete collaborative projects that prepare for the delivery of science objectives and ultimately deliver those objectives using open data. And we will advocate for members of the consortium where necessary, for example, in inclusion in the heritage and active author lists that will be maintained by the LST, perhaps inclusion in the science topical panels when they're formed, and so on. And we will also support and promote community development activities that will be necessary for the success of the project. An example of this is to ensure waveform model development takes place, so it reaches the point where it's needed for the DDPC and NASA ground segment. Okay, so the next steps for the CCC are to finalize the details. So we need to write down, we need to finally agree on the management structure and write it down in the form of bylaws for the consortium. We will produce this draft work plan and we'll prepare the procedure for the transition to the new consortium. Once this is all in place, we will present the proposed structure and roles to the current consortium, and there'll be some opportunity for people to give feedback. For the people in this room who are either current members of the consortium or potential future members of the consortium, the important things for you to think about: we need your input. You can provide input now to the working group chairs of working groups in which you are in about what should be in the draft work plan. And when we have finished drafting the structure and bylaws, there'll be an opportunity to provide feedback on that. Be prepared for the transition, because everybody will have to reapply. We will provide details as soon as we have them. But bear in mind, when you're thinking about whether you want to join or not, that everybody will have this 2-year onboarding period where you will have the opportunity to find out what's going on and identify a role for yourselves. So if you're unsure about where you fit, you can join and use that time to find out. And please bear in mind that the structure we put in place can evolve and will evolve in the future. We will do our best to have something that is functional at the beginning, but it's not going to be set in stone for the next 20 years. It will evolve over time, and so things that don't work will be fixed. We do our best to get something that works at the beginning, but it will change in the future. Okay, so that is everything. If you have questions or comments, there are about half the members of the CCC here. I couldn't put all of their photos on this slide. The people I have put up here are members of the CCC steering committee who are here in person. So you can find any one of us and ask questions or provide comments. There is also, if you scan this QR code, it will take you to this web form where you can provide anonymous feedback if you wish to do that as well. Okay, thank you.
Questions for John? There's one back there.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Multi-level memberships are usually associated to publication rights on proprietary data. As far as I understand, there is nothing like this here. So can you clarify what are the rights and the duties of the 3 levels of members? Thanks.
So that is not fully decided. You're right that the consortium has no data rights. We hope to create an environment in which people want to work because they can get access to expertise and they can do better science. It is certainly not going to be the case that, so as I said, it's not fully decided. I imagine there will be papers that are written by the consortium and they will carry large consortium author lists, but many things that are done in the consortium will be in small groups. And the advantage of being part of the consortium is that you have the access to the experts that you need to do that work well. The idea of the community versus full is we want to make sure that people who are not working on LISA but maybe are interested to know what's going on can be informed. But we imagine that the full members, the people who are actively working on LISA-related projects. And so that is more the distinction rather than being a distinction based on access to data.
I think we have a question over here.
Thanks. Early on, I don't know if this is a consortium question or an LST question, but you're talking about the general likely role, and one of it had to do with addressing topics that weren't in the current LST working groups. In that case, is that a dynamic thing? Is it possible that topics that are kind of out there or understudied now might make their way into formal working groups of the LST? Or is that-
I imagine that is the case. So our assumption is that things will evolve dynamically. The consortium will have working groups that it thinks are needed. If the LST decides that that is an activity that they want to be monitoring more closely and they create a working group, we're not going to duplicate work. It'll be the same people who are in these groups. And so the consortium group will either completely move to be the LST working group, or at least some subset of them will, and then maybe the consortium group doesn't exist anymore. But the idea is the consortium is it's a bigger group of people. We're probably doing more things. What the LST takes on, the consortium will not do, but the consortium will fill in the rest.
And the LST can be flexible enough to absorb them? Or?
Yes, I believe so. Nora is nodding.
Thanks.
Well, yeah, as the other LST co-chair, I think that's the purpose. One of the purposes of having the consortium ex officio representative as a full member of the LST to facilitate that kind of interaction and make sure, we don't duplicate work and we're efficient with utilizing everybody's time.